So Burst South was the one that we just finished that we're waiting for flight to finish putting the rock system in. That's the size of the pumps, that's the horsepower of the pump, because generally I always get that question, and so I decided now to put it as a part of a slide. So when this is all finished, all 4 of these pumps, which are quite large, will have the rock system, which is the stabilization of the wires. What we were experiencing is, and a part of that type of pump was that they would tangle in themselves, and the impellers would start cutting the wires, which would cause us problems with high temp failure. So this is, if I'm going to work this, so this would be the old top of the tube, and then this is the actual stabilization force that they use, and I have some pictures that will show you as they're lowering it down. Pretty big. So there's the stabilization that they use. Each one of the cables are put in there so that when it starts working, it's not twisting inside the tube itself, and there's the little opening for all the cable to come in and out. So not that super exciting, but I figured since I talk about rock system all the time, it's an extension to the top which helps stabilize the wires from tangling in within the motor. So this is our Grant West pump station. So here's our control panel. Up here's the platform. Underneath here is where you'll see here soon where all the tubes and pits are. This is the Acton truck that we have, and you can see, and there will be other pictures where they're vacuuming out underneath, and we'll go underneath to show you what it looks like. This ladder here, I'll show you a picture of what we found it at initially, and this is the pump from Griffin Dewatering that we have parked there, which ultimately goes into one of the pits and sort of takes the water out as best we can. It's a little bit smaller than what we're used to here. This is the size of the Grant West. Pump 1 is out of service. Pump 2 is in but not working. Pump 3 is out of service, and so is the sump pump. So we'll get all this capacity back, and we're going to save ourselves some money. Just to give you an idea, to rent the pump from Griffin is $2,700 a week. It's been in its 2nd week. It takes, we fill it with diesel gasoline. It's 75 gallons, of which it's about $300 every time we fill it up, and we filled it up 6 times. So you've got Acton probably to the tune of probably another $5,000. This pump station, and I've told other people, I've been in every pump station that we own, and this by far was the worst. I can't even give it justice. So that ladder that I showed you before is the top of a ladder that you end up going into the pit. This, just to give you an idea, this is about 16 feet high, so you have to figure that this entire area was filled, or this entire area was filled 16 feet throughout when we first got to it and put the pump in. And you'll see the depth when I think this next picture will, I'm sorry, there's a up-close personal of our pump.
That's supposed to be filled, right?
Oh, and that's, I mean, only in the most extreme circumstances is that supposed to be filled. Only if there was a failure, we had a failure. What you'll see is below this next picture, by the way, Bill, the iron skillet is right over there. So that's, just so you know, then that's the east side. Yeah. So when you go down those stairs, what happens is there's a 48-inch pipe that comes in, enters in at this location, and this is the initial trash rack. I don't know if I can give it as much. I mean, this picture doesn't do it any justice at all. There's my blue shoe that was once blue, and we're trying to clean it off at least a little bit to get some water back flowing in there. It all came down when we started pumping, but it gets better. So here's the after shot of it from the opposite view. So we took that first picture from up here. The second picture, we opened the grate up and we took it looking into it. So now that's what it looks like currently. We cleaned up a little bit of that stuff as well. So it now functions the way it should. When I said there's like a catwalk in between, so if you could only envision me turning around from the trash rack, and here's a little catwalk here, here's the catwalk goes here, and then you'll see another one in the second picture, it goes to the other way. And this is Lee, and there's Jeff, and they're just like hanging out talking about the iron skillet, evidently. So it's really nothing. Here's a better picture of it. If you see that light is the area where the sump pump is. The sump pump pit is. That is directly goes to the outside, so that's why you have the light. Here's where pump 1 goes. It's a bad picture. It's dark. I'm 8 feet underground. It's not really that exciting. So pump 2, and then this is pump 3 that also has some ladder that goes up there to view. And then down here is the actual pit, the ends of each tube themselves. So this is the end of pump 3, 2, 1, and then you'll see the pump over on the other one. This is the reverse view of the trash rack. What you can't appreciate is the fact that this mound here and this mound here is silt about 6 inches high on the back side. So what we were trying to do was stop the water flowing from in. We were trying to pump it and clean it at the same time. And then I came up with a great idea. Sorry. And we decided to go buy a tarp at the truck stop and seal it completely shut. So this stopped all water from flowing from this pipe and from it. So we had a limited time so that we didn't flood out anybody upstream to clean out the station. This is, once again, the sump pump pit. You can see the nice walls full. That's how high they were full. Down here is approximately 2.5 feet of silt. There is a 15-inch or 16-inch cover on this. This is the actual pump from Griffin Dewatering that we sunk in. So we know that there's a 16-inch sort of like a screen on the end, and that is fully submerged. So we know the worker actually told me, because he got water in his boots and he wasn't too happy, that it was that filled. What was happening was the trash rack was so filled that it would go over the top of the trash rack, go over the catwalk, and end up in the pit without being filtered, which ended up, all this stuff ended up getting into our motors, which ended up destroying it. You can see what he was disturbing. Believe it or not, that's him down there with this vacuum in the sump pump pit, and you can see all the silt here that was being disturbed as he was taking out and trying to jet it out of the thing, out of the pit. And then here's just another example of the pit. It was dark. That was a bad picture. So that was that. Go to the rainstorm. Just want to really briefly tell you, because it's sort of exciting. And those that were in the country when this happened know that it hit pretty hard and pretty fast. And what we also realized is that north of the river was roughly 3.5 inches of rain. On the river was about 2 3/4 to 3 inches of rain, and then everything north or south of 45th, say Main Street, was only 1.5 inches. So whatever hit us hard and made our gauges and made all of our hair stick up, because this is what happens. So this is the gauge station by Homan Avenue. And it's one that generally everyone tends to go to, but we have plenty of other gauges and other opportunities, but I figured this is the one that excites people the most. Generally, the river will respond to a 3-foot rise for every 1 inch of rain. So this one was just over probably 2.25 feet for every 1 inch of rain. So what happened was it rained really hard. This is midnight. This gray line right here is midnight. So it drove to 12 feet, which on the NGVD site would be, sea level, which is 593 or 592. So flood level or flood station in this area is 597. What we were worried about was the fact that we were getting 3 inches of rain. If that truly would have driven across the entire region, we would have ended up probably at 15. So, and the flood record is 17.1. So that's why we were sort of a little bit nervous. And this page here goes to where we were at. We were all communicating. I talked to Chief Bradley and Gary. I talked to Dean Budden and Hammond and Chief Timmer and Highland and Munster. So we all talked about what was going on. And so we were in, this is Highland. This is what we call the EOC, the Emergency Operation Command Center. So we looked at this. They've got 2 TVs mounted on the wall. We could watch this. We had gauges at the pump stations for precipitation, so we knew all this information. So this was roughly just before midnight we were watching, and we knew that we were pretty good condition after it went by. So just so that you know that that's what happens when something like this goes on, is that everyone tends to go together. I went out to, we have our own little thing. I was hanging out at our office till 5:30, went home briefly, and then this started around 9 o'clock at night till just after midnight. So, and then the last thing is, that was just to show you what happens during some storm events. And then this is the drone footage of Kennedy Avenue. People wonder why we're getting rid of Kennedy Avenue. Look at all these pillars that are being the nice blockers for all this material. So we had to pay and to get all this removed. The funny thing was the railroad track that normally clogs up, which is just to the west of here, was perfectly clean, so it must have dislodged. And this now is clean. I don't have an aftershock just because flying a drone in 50-mile-per-hour winds isn't advisable.